Today we cover a very important event in your new leadership endeavor. It's really about your first individual meeting as a first one-on-one. The competition of your business versus other businesses. How do you initiate that? How to make that first individual contact? Listen carefully. Welcome back everyone to the Mammoth in the Room. Today is episode 6. My name is Nicolas and I'm the CEO of Mammoth Leadership Sciences. Today we cover a very important event in your new leadership endeavor. The event I'm talking about is when you meet your team members individually for the first time. You remember last time we talked about how this should run when you are meeting new team on an aggregate level. Today it's really about your first individual meeting as a first one-on-one. And this is an interesting one because this is really where the rubber hits the road first. And I want to start that out a little bit different than normally. I want to start that out with reading from a publication I really do like. And we will also have that publication, of course, in the show notes, as we always have. Publication is called What We Know About Leadership. It was published in the Review of General Psychology, and it is from Robert Hogan and Robert B. Kaiser. And this article reviewed the empirical literature on personality, leadership, and organizational effectiveness. Within this, they talk about leadership effectiveness. They write, leadership is usually defined in terms of the people who are in charge of organizations and their units. By definition, the people who lead. So basically, leadership effectiveness, they write, is normally measured by how these people perform. But there is an alternative way to conceptualize that very leadership effectiveness. I do like that very much. They put that into the perspective of human evolution, as we always do. Think for a moment about human origins. People evolved as group living animals because there is safety in numbers. Over the 2 million years of human prehistory, the various hominid groups were in competition for the control of resources, and the competition was typically quite savage. People are naturally selfish and inclined to pursue their short-term self-interest. Leadership involves persuading people to set aside for a time their selfish pursuits and work in support of the communal interest. We're talking here set aside selfish, not self-interest. In the context of the violent tribal warfare that characterized most of human history, leadership was a solution for group survival. Leadership was a collective phenomenon which evolved, and in their view, leadership should be defined in terms of the ability to build and maintain a group that performs well relative to its competition. Now, I like that very much. This is what you are actually tasked to do, because this sounds a lot like what we're doing in business. So while in our prehistoric hundreds, thousands of years of history as hunter-gatherers, it was a lot about space, resources with other groups, tribes, etc., and it was super bloody. Our business world is maybe not that bloody, but it's still fierce. And when you look at the definition of what we just heard, it's really about the competition of your business versus other groups, versus other businesses. Obviously, we need the groups to perform together business, but it starts on individual level. So in order to get that leadership effectiveness going, that people can put aside their immediate self-interest and look into the bigger goal which a group can perform or achieve, that is what you are tasked to build as a leader. It starts for purely biological reasons on individual level to get a group to go above and beyond, because every member, and we discussed that in the first couple of episodes, needs to know the what's in for me. Because if there is not enough in for a person in that company, in your department, well, then the person will go to another company, to another department where he or she has more in for him or her. When you are meeting your team members for the first time, this what's in for me needs to be up front and center. And here are the, for me, most important things to get right and cover in this first individual interaction. And the reason is really people need to see that you are a decent leader, that it is worth following you, and that they can build on the trust they naturally give you. First things first. How do you initiate that? How to make that first individual contact? Seems easy, but a lot of mistakes happen already there. It should be you who set up that meeting with your new direct report. Send a nice message in the invite, for instance, that you are looking forward to this meeting to get introduced. Set the meeting up at the office of that employee, or if the person is geographically located somewhere else, for instance, a sales function, meet the person in his or her territory. That goes a long way. Then resist to put an agenda to this first interaction. You'll have plenty of meetings over the time you work together to build agendas. And it's important. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have any objectives for yourself for this meeting. You certainly should. But just don't put it down in writing to, show first and foremost yourself how much you're in control. It's not needed. Then make sure you set it up when the employee has time. You can align over email on this or invite to send a counter proposal. Don't put it on the calendar and expect that the person has to be on time and cancel all the other things. And once you have aligned on a time and a date, then don't reschedule. Make sure nothing gets in between with your schedule. Nothing is more annoying than having meetings with your management on the calendar and then this gets moved multiple times as if you don't have to do anything else. And once you do meet, be on time. And if not, there is some kind of emergency, you're stuck in traffic or whatever, send a message. Don't just be late, let the person wait and then apologize once you're there. That is dominant hierarchical behavior, not needed. Couple minutes early help as well. Don't OCD it and tell the guy you meet for the first time you're expecting punctuality when he or she shows up 2 to 3 minutes late, probably doing your business. And this is already it. Common sense, one might say, right? Why am I even talking about it? Well, I'm talking about it because that very common sense thing gets messed up all day, every day. Folks who send out invites without any context for that first meeting, or on the contrary side, put in the text, X to meet Y in his or her office. Intro 5 minutes, business priorities 25 minutes. Prepare slides for review. Send slides up front 2 days before. Ever heard about this? Or even better, ask the guy who works in the territory to come to the headquarters. And once the person is here, then the manager shows up 10 minutes late or not at all because another important meeting was called. You might think that first interaction is easy. If you take it as a common sense, it's easy. But maybe because it is easy, it gets messed up so many times because leaders don't prepare for it from the perspective of how the other person perceives it. And that perception is important because once you leave that employee, before you're in your car, your plane, your train, your bus, whatever, the other peers of that guy will already know who you are. And I'm explicitly saying who you are. They will not say he or she did this or said this. They will have an opinion who you are. Then let's talk about the meeting itself. The second critical point is, what do you cover as your first topic in that interaction? And this should be first and foremost about the employee you meet. Let the person tell her story. Everyone is proud and keen about her own story. Listen carefully, ask questions. You need to understand what drives the person. I already mentioned somewhere else in the podcast that you want to know if the guy is a scientist at heart, an artist, an athlete, a community servant. This is important. I did a lot of these things wrong very early in my career. I thought these first interactions are about me, about what I want, what's important for the business, and that the employee understands that, the plan, the strategy, etc. You know what? It's not. The employee you meet is the center. Ask about family. Talk about the things you will connect as human beings. Then, when the personal stuff is done, it's still not time talking about your business objectives. It's about what the employee is expecting to achieve in this company. What are the personal goals? Where does the person want to be in 2, 3, 5 years? And how she thinks the journey is going. What is she proud about from business contribution perspective? Where are strengths? Where are gaps? Where are weaknesses? What's the long-term goals? Why is she in this company and not somewhere else? Let this conversation flow in any direction the employee wants. It's important because it sets you up for a next step a bit later. Resist talking too much about yourself. Very often managers feel the urge to take the initiative in a conversation when an employee speaks about his or her achievements. And yes, you might be brilliant and smart and have done all of the things this employee tells you also did, but resist that urge to comment on it. For instance, like, yes, I've also done that multiple times actually. I've seen that. I also did that, but with a way more bigger group, more resources, bigger problems. Sounds familiar? Don't. Just don't. Even if you're asked if you also did that, you can say you have done it, but don't show off. Don't. Admire and respect. That's all you need to do at this stage. And then, once this is done and before you go to the next part, which will be the third critical thing, I'll encourage you to do it the following. Assure the person that you will work with them to fulfill their goals and objectives in this company, in this assignment. And if you get through this part, approximately in the way outlined, that's success. Congrats so far. Now, the third step. Of course, there's also an opportunity from business perspective in this first meeting. That opportunity already started because the employee gave you the license for it. Remember when I said a minute ago, let the conversation flow because it sets you up for the next step? I'm a big proponent of turning this notion of company first upside down to employee first. We discussed that the employee needs to know why he, she has skin in the game, wants to be part of this bigger picture, wants to give everything and more, wants to live up to his, her potential in your company and not in the company of someone else. Building that environment where an employee can identify him, herself with the company goals because it serves his, her goals. That's what a business leader is tasked to build. And here is the moment to start this. In this part of the conversation, you know where the employee's perspectives are. And now it's your time to state where the company needs to go. Have your vision ready, your critical success factors, strategic imperatives, goals, if you will, but put it into perspective of how the employee can merge his, her own goals with your company's. You outline your priorities and will find an opportunity to connect. Along the lines of, this is where we as a company need to go. You know that. And this fits perfectly with what you just told me that you want to achieve. Because you want to achieve this or that. You can create a perfect fit if it exists. And this is where the art comes into play. The science is, what you know is that the employee needs to know what's in for me. That is what you know. The art is how you connect it between the company, what the company needs to achieve, and what the employee wants to achieve in his, her life. And given performance, given fit, given the passion, the work to be put in, etc., you offer to work with the employee to achieve his, her goals along the journey to the company goals. So you basically merge the company goals with the employee goals. I give you one practical example. In one of my biggest career switches, moving from leading a small team of 8 to leading a team of around 80 people, I had a phenomenal manager. And it was a big transformation role. And he knew that all I wanted was learning how to lead big teams. Long ago, but that was my biggest passion. And while we had already like 200 strategic imperatives identified, in his first meeting, he just said this: Nicolas, we're having a big transformation on our hand, and this job is too big for you today. But we believe in your potential and you'll learn more than ever before. We go on this journey together and it will be just fine. That's what he said. That was the first meeting. Nothing else. And of course, the next 400 meetings were all about these 200 strategic imperatives, most of them from headquarters. But I had my North Star for me and I was flying. I was literally flying. This was it for today. Biggest takeaways for the most critical things in your first individual meeting with each of your immediate team members, direct reports. First, you reach out, you listen to the employee's goals, and you connect it with the company goals in that order. Before you go, if you're interested in more, there is my book coming out in October. It has the same title as the podcast, The Mammoth in the Room. It offers a practical roadmap how great leaders and their teams embrace evolutionary truths for outstanding business results. And it does that in 3 sections: on people, on strategy, and on implementation. And if you leave us your email, we can put you onto a non-binding pre-order list. And if you would like to get the book, for the e-version, we only charge $2.99 in the way up to the book launch. Thanks for listening. Hope you found it useful. And if you did, give me some likes and see you next time. Nicolas Bocconi, The Mammoth in the Room.